welcome to the Human Frequency on American Freedom Radio, broadcasting live from Greenland. April Fools. A little early, I guess. No, we're still in Southern California, and we're still defeating the parasites on all fronts, especially weather fronts. Some nice skies these past few days, right, Sharon?
Did you say Greenland because it's been so cold?
That's one of the reasons.
I mean, I heard even in LA that, people are having to turn on the heat. So when the mainstream media says this is such a hot year, hottest year on record again, promoting their global warming agenda and their drought agenda, I guess it's not true. It's been pretty cold.
Yeah, and I don't think Dane Wigington would appreciate it very much either.
Well, Dane Wigington threatened to have the police take me away for showing up at his event with orgone energy information, which is kind of strange considering he wants to stop chemtrails, supposedly.
Yeah, a little strange.
We come in with the solution, and that creates too much drama. I don't know why, but I have my theories. But yes, the weather's been pretty remarkable. We've had unbelievable skies, and I think that the gloom and doom crowd's getting really bored with my blog because it's one day after another of chemtrail free, or you could see like this one little attempt at a chemtrail and it disappears. Because when you discover the free energy solution to chemtrails, you live a chemtrail-free life. So maybe people think that's not possible. I would say take a look at my blog for the past 2 years and look at the archives and see the amazing defeat of chemtrails in Southern California.
And we have some updates on the legal name front as well. Isn't that right, Sharon?
Yeah, in the latest legal name adventures. So as many of you know, my name is no longer Sharon Daphna Schloss. That's my registered business entity. You can just call me Sharon. You can call me Sharon Daphna. So Sharon Daphna Schloss has been successful in obtaining a passport and signing on behalf of the business entity. The State Department didn't like it, didn't want to process the application.
Too bad.
And then they had to anyway when I presented my paperwork. And then I opened a business bank account, and that is under the name of Sharon Daphna Schloss, no more personal account. And my latest adventure was with PayPal. I wanted to start a PayPal so that we could get donations for our major Organite gifting projects. It costs thousands of dollars a year for us to donate Organite to the state. We pay for it out of pocket, and somebody had this nice idea. Oh, well, why don't you put a donate button on your site? So, I set up a PayPal, put a donate button. They shut down my account the next day and wouldn't tell me why. And after numerous emails and phone calls with them, I got my account restored. And I am very sure that it's because I set up a business PayPal with Sharon Daphna Schloss as the name of the business. And they didn't understand why what they thought was the name of a human was a business name.
Yeah, that was probably a big red flag to them. And you went through an epic battle to try and just to get a reason for it.
They would never give me one.
And they still never gave it to you, did they?
No, but after many conversations, I think I got the gist of it. Anyway, they restored my account because what can you do?
That's right.
It's a registered business entity.
It's legal and lawful.
It is. Well, speaking of the legal name, we have such an amazing guest today. Gabe and I are huge fans of Jordan Maxwell. And Jordan is a preeminent researcher and independent scholar in the field of religious and occult philosophy as far back as 1959. He works on exploring the hidden foundations of Western religions and secret societies and possesses amazing knowledge on the manipulation of our language to enslave us. He has conducted dozens of intensive seminars, hosted his own radio show right here on American Freedom Radio, and has been a guest on more than 600 radio shows, and written, produced, and appeared in numerous television shows and documentaries. Jordan has a tremendous wealth of knowledge to share. We're very excited to welcome you, Jordan, to the Human Frequency. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you and welcome, Jordan.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with people who are knowledgeable about what's going on, so I don't have to start from day one and bring people up to speed. I think a lot of people are finally awakening to the fact that the world is not what they thought it was, and it's not. And there is a lot of, I think the biggest problem that the human race has is ignorance. It's education. That's the biggest problem. God knows we have enormous amounts of problems all over the world. Any one of them are frightening. But the biggest one of all is education, because as long as the human mind rejects material, rejects knowledge, doesn't want to hear it, like the movie, you can't take the truth, you can't handle the truth.
Right.
So that's what I've been seeing all my life, is people look at me with glassy eyes and wondering what I'm talking about. And so now it's at least people are starting to awaken. But what I always say is, well, that's what people do when you're in prison. Every morning you wake up. So the mere fact that people are awakening, that really doesn't impress me, because you're still in a prison. So unless and until you learn how this world actually works, just waking up to the criminality is not good enough. You need to understand how it really works, so that you can live from day to day, understanding, where you're going, where you've come from. So that's what I've been trying to do for some 55, 56 years now. It's going on. just talking to people about doing something you've never done before. Go read a book. Just go to the library and start reading about how your government works, and your banks and your institutions, human institutions, where they come from, who's financing them, how the world actually operates. So it's quite a story, and I don't even know where to start. I've done so many radio shows, but I don't know where to start. It's such a big story.
Well,
And,
I actually do know where to start, and I think we're
mm,
going in a very good direction here. But I need to say something first, and you of course can talk about it more, Jordan. But people need to know that your former website, jordanmaxwell.com, is not your actual website, and that website has been subverted and taken over by interests that have absolutely nothing to do with you, and that you have a completely different website that people should go to. Would you tell the people what that website is?
yes, it's called Jordan Maxwell Show, SHOW. Very simple. I had a website called jordanmaxwell.com, but I needed someone to handle it for me at 75 years old. I don't know that much about the technology and how to run a website, so I needed someone to help me with my website. And this young guy comes in and says, "Oh, I just love what you're doing, and I want to help you, and anything I can do to help you." And I said, "Well, yeah. Do you know anything about websites?" "Oh, yeah, I can take care of that for you." So I made a deal with him, and that he would be my webmaster and help me with the distribution of products. And for that, I would pay him. So, but in order to have a webmaster, I have to give him the the username and the password for him to go into my website and work with it for me. Well, I
Right.
discovered that when I did that, he immediately, now that he has the codes to my website, he went in, and I didn't know anything about it, but he went into the back end of the website because he's got the codes now, and changed the ownership of the website to himself. And then he redirected the bank account,
Oh,
which used to go to me. He redirected the bank account to himself.
it's terrible.
Yeah, and then he sent to Washington, D.C., and got all of my books and videos that I produced, got them all copyrighted in his name.
How is
Then
that
tried
even
to,
possible?
very simple.
That,
If you really don't care about the law, and if you're a total criminal lawbreaker, you just do whatever you want to do, and it
yeah.
works. Because in
It
this
sounds like the
society,
IRS.
yeah, it just works. And so he
Right.
copyrighted all my material, so he owns all that I have ever produced. He owns it, and tried to trademark my name, so he owns my name. He owns my bank account. He owns my website. He owns everything. And so it's just criminality. But I'm an old man. What can I do? I mean, I trusted him. Well,
Well,
now
it's
you see.
terrible when things like this happen, and there are many people out there that want to stop people like you from doing your work. And I wouldn't put it past our government to hire
I wouldn't
people to
either.
do this.
I
Gabe and I
know.
had someone approach us and say, "Hey, I want to help you. I'm interested in your work." Turned out he really didn't know anything about what we did. He put a friend of his on the phone with Gabe to tell him, because he understood the orgone energy. And then what really this guy wanted to do was help us in a similar capacity to what this guy was doing with you. I caught it real quick. I said, "Hey, wait a minute. I think this guy is trying to get in here to stop us from doing our work effectively and to get control of what we do." And we said, "Hey, let's just not talk to
Yeah,
him again."
I think it
It's
was the fact that he was about 220 pounds and spray tanned and looked like he
Yeah.
was basically lifted from the set of Jersey
Yeah,
Shore.
and he
He
was
had,
wearing a
Yep.
Bluetooth.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
when we saw this guy, I was like,
yeah,
no,
this guy's into higher states of consciousness. All right.
Yeah.
So you
No
have to
doubt
be so
about it. Yeah.
careful now with I think the government is hiring people to give out disinformation, and they're hiring people to try and stop people like you from putting out the truth.
Oh, I know that's true. I know that's true because I've been threatened every inch of the way. I have had threats for the past 35 years at least. People coming in, stealing everything, lying, uh, you know, uh, redirecting my accounts, redirecting everything. And these people that have taken my website over are now mocking me on my own website, calling me names, mocking me in front of everyone. Uh, you know, and yet at the same time promoting all of my products at the same time to make money. And they made over probably close to 500,000 is from what I was able to get from PayPal. The court ordered PayPal to show the funds from my website, and it was $430,000 that they have ripped me off, and that's just on PayPal. That's not the cash checks and money orders and everything
It's
else.
crazy.
Right.
It's
Just
crazy.
on
PayPal would
PayPal,
shut down.
almost
They should shut them down.
430,000. Yeah, 430,000 they stole from me,
That's terrible.
and they're still doing it today. They're buying race cars and taking trips around the world and buying their drugs
Well,
and
I guess
you
they
know
know
it,
what's really important in this life, right?
Yeah.
of
But
course
you know
that's
what?
right.
What's crazy about this is that PayPal shut down my account in one day just because they didn't like my business entity name.
Yeah.
And then in a
Mhm.
case like this where there's actual fraud being committed, they just let it happen.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
look the other
understand.
way.
That's
But
exactly right. They just let it
that's
happen.
crazy.
And so
Well,
I called and contacted GoDaddy and Who Is and those companies that in control of website names and domain
Yeah, domain names. Yeah.
domain companies, and they tell me, did you give this guy the the information on your website, the username and the password? And I said, yes, I had to. It was going to be, but they said, well, I'm sorry, there's nothing we could do. That's it. I said, well, you can see that he has changed the ownership. And they said, no, we're looking at it. We can see he's changed it. Obviously, we can see it was changed. You've owned it ever since 1999, but now it's been changed for the first time in all these years. So we can see what he's done, but I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. So
They can't
goodbye
do
and good
anything
luck.
about it
Nothing.
because that was they have implied that that was your consent given, and
Yep,
even
that's
though
right.
it is plainly obvious that there's fraud going on and misuse, they won't do
Yep,
anything about it just because on paper it has to be this way and it's not.
yep,
So
well,
you're
I
right.
smell a rat. I think it's the government. I think that they want to shut you down and that they sent this guy out to do it. I always think there's something
Well, it
behind
wouldn't
it.
surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me because he is a real criminal, and and so he's kind of a sleazeball that government would go after, to use because he really doesn't care about morality, ethics, anything to do with humanity. He's in it for the money, whatever it costs, to make the money. So you might be right. I don't know. So hopefully
well,
one day I'll be able to get my stuff back. I don't know.
yeah, well,
Well, for now.
in the meantime, I hope that jordanmaxwellshow.com can remain free of the aforementioned dramas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
keep
me
that
too.
one to yourself. I know,
Yeah.
keep that password private. But so anyway, we should be going to jordanmaxwellshow.com for everything Jordan Maxwell and to donate to Jordan's great work. And I also saw you did private consultations. So that's an amazing service you're providing.
And
So please
also
go.
on my website, Jordan Maxwell Show, you'll see a button that says Research Society. And all that is just a new website I've connected to the show. And it's a website in which I am dropping down and downloading all of my research work from over the years to a research website where there will be tons of information, documents, videos, books, free books, all kinds of research materials I've collected over the years. So if you want to join that, just go to Jordan Maxwell Show, and then you'll see a little button that says Research Society. Click on it and join. And I'm putting stuff on it every day. So it's going to be a lot of interesting stuff on there that I can't talk about in public. But I think I'm safer if I'm, putting it into a private research society rather than putting it out in the public, because some of that stuff is very, very controversial that
Well, that sounds
I've
good.
known about for years. Yeah.
Well, we will check that out. And what really blows my mind is that you've been doing this research since 1959. I mean, this is before anybody even talked about conspiracy theories. In fact, it's before the phrase conspiracy theory was even a
Yeah.
phrase, because that was invented by the CIA in response to people who questioned the assassination
Yeah.
of John F. Kennedy. So you are way ahead of the game on this. And I would like to start off by asking you, and this is kind of a huge question, but who really rules human society? Who are the so-called elite in your observation above the government?
Yeah. Well, I was going to add that myself. It's not the governments. Governments they're not really in control. Ultimate control always has been and is now, always will be in the unseen world. Uh, Religions all over the world talk about the demonic demons, devils, angels, sons of God, poltergeists, ghost, all kinds of words and terms have been, even in Islam, you have jinns. But the bottom line is that the power on this earth is not of this world. There is in point of fact a spiritual presence on the earth that has always been here. And all leaders, kings in the ancient world, princes, and all the royalty in the ancient world and medieval world have always known that the world itself operates under the auspices of a spiritual presence. This is why you have so much demonism, child sacrifice, religions, cults, and you find out through, if you really look into the subject of the demonic possession of people, of humans, then Hollywood's been telling us this for years. With Stanley Kubrick and his movie Eyes Wide Shut, how many people went to see that movie not understanding any of it, walked away and couldn't
I
understand
didn't at the
any of it?
time. At the time, I
Oh,
didn't get it at all. I get it
yeah,
now.
I know.
Well, I
But
was
then when you
14, so I
understand,
wouldn't have understood it.
yeah, right. Well, but then when you understand Stanley Kubrick, one of the greatest producers and directors Hollywood's ever had, died because he made that movie. He was actually
Hmm.
he died because he made that movie. And so, where you got to figure, if the best of the best in Hollywood made a movie and it was killed for it, you better go back and watch that movie because it's telling
Yeah,
you something.
that's
Right.
right.
So,
And that
yeah.
actually leads into my next question to you is that, well, Sharon and I, we don't watch TV. Even when we were in LA, we didn't watch TV. But when we come into LA about once a month or so, and in that time, we're exposed to just a brief amount of the insanity that's being forced into the collective subconscious. So we sense just an increasing air of desperation, but also more of those signals that you were talking about, like getting past the screen and getting placed ever more overtly. And I just want to know, what do you think is the reason for this? Does this pattern have anything to do with off-world entities?
It certainly does. And that's exactly what I was talking about, is that there is an off-world, other world, I call it other world presence on the earth, in which there are human sacrifices, religions, cults, devil worshipping cults, all kinds of secret societies, fraternal orders, people dying, mysteriously dying. And it's an extraordinary story of the betrayal of the human race. But generally speaking, the human population today is not aware of any of this. They look at the at the stories of suicides, of cult suicides, and that kind of thing as apparitions and all kinds of strange things that you'll see happening in the world, but never realizing, no, this is the world and how it actually works. And when you're in Hollywood, which I've lived there for 56 years, and when you live in Hollywood and you know how the system works and realize the formulas, the magical formulas that they're using to suck in the American people and the people of this world into all kinds of demonic depravity, demon possession, child sacrifice. I mean, it's incredible stuff that's going on in Hollywood even today. It's absolutely out of control. So
There's a new show
there
called
is a
Lucifer. There's a show called Lucifer right now. Do you know about that one?
no,
This
no,
guy,
no.
this guy is Satan, and he comes to live in Los Angeles to get out of hell and go to a different hell. And he becomes a bar owner, and they take this
Uh-huh.
handsome man and they, kind of glorify Satan. And the little tag phrase on the billboard is "hot as hell." Lucifer, hot as hell. I mean, what kind of a message is this?
Great example for the
All
children.
the kids are seeing this
Yeah.
every day too.
Yeah, I got the billboard there on Pico Boulevard. Just how many thousands of people drive
Yeah,
past that all the time? Satan is cool. That's
right. That one really bothers me. There's a Luciferian agenda in Hollywood. I've seen so much evidence of it. Can you speak more of the
Well,
Luciferian aspect?
yes. I know that people have heard me say this before, but I think it bears saying again, is that the the home of what we would call the white man, the Anglo-Saxon white people of the world in Europe, comes from northeast, western, southern Europe. Incidentally, that's where we get the word news. News is northeast, west, and south. So anything that happens in northeast, west, or south is news. But uh, long before the Roman Empire dominated Europe, way before Rome, Europe was already dominated by a very powerful presence of government and laws and religions, etc. And the people who dominated Europe for thousands of years and are still there today doing what they've always done. This system of government and religion and law was called Druids, Druidic. And so one of the most important symbols in the ancient Europe of the presence of Druid power, the Druid priests and the Druid officials. One of the most important symbols was a magic wand, like Merlin the magician with his magic wand. Well, magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of holly wood.
Oh my goodness. You're blowing my mind.
And when, yeah, and once you begin to see Hollywood, is now we talk about the magic of Hollywood. No, not really. No, it's something a little more than that. Let's call it the demonic depravity of the ancient prehistoric world, involving itself in Druidism, all of the dark human sacrifices, and child sacrifices, and blood rituals, and sexual rituals that were dominant in Europe with witchcraft and all the orgies and all kind of strange stuff that the Druids were into. Well, we're still Druid today, and
Yeah.
we're still ruling the world with the wood of a holly tree, with Hollywood.
Well, I was
And
born. I was born and
well,
raised in North Hollywood, and there's nothing magical about that place. Let me tell you that.
But in North
that's
Hollywood, there's this store. I got to tell you about this, Jordan. There's this crystal shop because Gabe and I use crystals in our energy work with Orgone. And we've been going to this store for a while. And the last time we went there, I felt extremely uncomfortable because I started to notice things I didn't notice before. There were pentagrams everywhere. Parked outside was a car with pentagrams on it and a doll hanging like from a noose with blood all over it. And when we were in there looking
Just
for
the
crystal,
head.
just the head.
Just the head of the
And then
doll.
we were in the shop and I was hearing this music that sounded really satanic. So I put a Yelp review about it saying, this place has good crystals at a good price, but if the Satanism makes you uncomfortable, you shouldn't go there. And then I got a reply really quickly from someone saying, they're not satanic, they're pagan. So I would like to know, is that what you're talking about here? Are you talking about pagan religion?
well, there's you have to understand the word pagan. The word pagan goes back to the Roman Empire, actually, when Caesar decided that Christianity was going to be the state religion. Everybody who was anybody in Rome, of course, decided that they were going to be Christian. Why? Well, because Caesar is now Christian. So if you want to be in the big club, then you need to change over from being a pagan into a Christian. And so therefore, if you now are a Christian in the Roman Empire, like Caesar, you are now in the spin of things. You now are getting invited to the parties, and you're now, a friend of Caesar. And
When in
so,
Rome.
yeah, that's
Is
it.
that why
When
they
in
say
Rome,
when in
do as
Rome?
the Romans do.
I think you just discovered one, Gabe.
Do I get brownie points or demerits? I'm not sure which.
Well, you'll find out soon. So,
Okay.
and so the idea was that anyone who lived outside of Rome, peasants and farmers in the empire, all over the empire, who were not in the big club, they have not joined the Christian, Caesar's Christian movement, and are not in Rome and not in the span of things. The word in Latin was pagan. A pagan is someone who does not live in the big city. They live in the countryside. They're farmers. And they're just regular country folks. They're just people living outside the big city where the big government is. And so pagan doesn't mean evil. It just means people who are living on the land who are not in the big club. And so, but then it later on during the Middle Ages began to take on the interpretation that they're evil. Why? Because the guys in Rome, the Vatican, and all the power brokers in Rome, looked down upon the regular, ordinary people and the farmers, and so they were pagans, which means you don't have anything to do with those people because they're just ignorant farmers and ignorant people. Well, actually, the pagans, what we call pagans, were just the people of the empire, and they already were involved in their spiritual pursuits thousands of years before Rome existed. They were involved in all kinds of religious concepts and ideas and precepts coming out of the ancient and prehistoric world. So once you understand, that what we call pagan is simply the people of the land, and the people of the land thousands of years ago were, in point of fact, involved in all kinds of rituals and all kinds of concepts and ideas about the ancient gods, and they would have human sacrifices and all kinds of sacrifices to the gods for their crops and all that. And it's an interesting story about the history of religion, and that's the one subject that I am really most interested in, always have been, is religion. The only reason I got into the secular subjects which I've been talking about is because I felt it's important part of education to have the people wake up and find out, how their world works before you start getting into the deeper spiritual things. Most people don't even know how the world works, how their own government works. So I'm
Right.
trying to do that along with and inviting people intellectually to go back into the ancient world 7,000 years ago and see the religions that were being developed by the human race and how they have mutated and evolved and come down to what we have today. And so that's what I'm always trying to do is just show the dirty underbelly of the whole world, how religions work, governments work, where it all came from. And like I said, my most favorite subject is, of course, religion.
Well, the key
And
word there is dirty.
Well, and Jordan, you
yeah,
did answer my question. The Green Man Shop is indeed satanic, not pagan.
oh
And
yeah,
that's why I felt so uncomfortable there. So this is a great chance to talk about how do religions control us. I see that religions may have started out differently than how they're used today. However, from what you say, maybe the religions were always in place as a control structure. How are we controlled by religion? Is religion
well,
above the government as well?
well. First of all, let me throw this in. The very word Satan in the Hebrew simply means an opposer in a courtroom. So if you are in court and you have someone that you are bitterly opposing in a courtroom, the word in Hebrew is Satan. A Satan is someone who is opposing you in a courtroom. And so, therefore, the church, Christianity, said anybody out there in the hitherlands, all the country people and all the farmers, if they're not in the new Christian religion, then you are opposing Caesar, you're opposing God, you're opposing the spiritual presence on earth and Christianity. So, therefore, you are a Satan. And so that's where we get the idea that people who were the old, the witches and warlocks and all the ancient peoples with their religions were worshiping Satan. No, it's not Satan. A Satan is someone who opposes the Roman religion in Rome. So it doesn't mean that the people who are, practicing these witchcraft, etc., are necessarily worshiping an entity named Satan, but they are involved in something which is opposing the state religion. Myself, I understand both of them, and I don't have anything to do with either one, but and for the same reason. But I just want to clarify Satanism. Satan is simply an opposer, and so the Catholic Church says anybody who opposes them is in league with Satan.
I see.
So anyway, what was your question now?
Well, I was talking about religious control of the world, and it's interesting this example you give because we had a guy up here on the mountain pretty much tell me and Gabriel as nicely as possible that we were going to go to hell because we're not saved because we have a different religion than
Well,
him.
considering how
And
cold it's been here lately, that might be
Yeah,
a
I
good
know.
thing.
but
Yeah.
I didn't take it all too seriously. Here's a guy that needs rules to tell him that he shouldn't cheat on his wife because he said, almost verbatim, that he would have sex with everything on two legs if it wasn't forbidden by the Bible.
Yeah.
So I personally don't need a rule to tell me that
At least he
my
kept it to
okay,
two-legged.
thank goodness. But at least I don't,
Right.
I don't need a rule to tell me to be true to
I
my
know.
partner who I'm in a divine union with because I don't want to be with anyone else. But anyway, it was just kind of
All
a funny
right.
situation. I kind of got a laugh out of it.
Well, my laugh
But
was the lines of, well, the Bible says this, well, the Bible says that, the Bible says, and I'm thinking to myself, which version?
oh yeah,
There's like 47 different versions or something like
That's
that.
right.
right.
You'd be more on top of what
Mm.
the actual number is, Jordan.
And
But
meanwhile, he's telling us he'd like to invite us to a barbecue, and I tell him, well, I don't eat meat. Well, I don't know. In some cultures, he would be going to hell because he eats meat, and I don't. And I wouldn't because I don't eat. But anyway, I think
Well,
it's all up to your
look at the very
interpretation.
bottom line. The bottom line on all of this is where you were born. That's very simple. If you were born in China, then you would grow up in the Chinese, the area in which you live is different even in China. There are different areas and different cultures. But if you were born in China or Russia, then you would accept the norms of the culture that you come from, and that would be the law, that would be the world, that would be the world you live in, and you would be going to their church or their belief system or whatever. Unless, of course, you were born in South Africa, then you would have a different God and a different belief system. Unless, of course, you were born in Ireland, and then you'd have a different religious system and a different belief. Or if you were born in Israel, you'd have a different view and a different belief system. So
all right, we got
actually,
about 219 more countries
Yeah.
to go. Just keep going.
yeah, right,
And the
exactly.
question,
So
Jordan, is the big question is which is the real religion? Which is the true belief that will get us to heaven?
According to South Park, it was the Mormons,
Okay, is
but
that
I have
true,
a hard
Jordan?
time believing it.
Is it
Right.
Mormonism?
I think no, no, no.
Okay,
Mormonism is simply a Masonic order.
I see.
But if you want to get close to God, if you really want to get back to the original, and that, if you're gonna get to the bottom of something, you might want to start at the bottom and go from there. If you want to go back to the original, there's a scripture in the Old Testament in the Bible where God says, "Go back to the old way." That's very, very interesting because people read scriptures and never really appreciate the significance of the words and why those words are used. But it has God saying to Israel, "You have strayed from what you should be and who you should be and what you should be doing." And so the advice God gives to Israel is, "Go back to the old way." I've got that written down. I'll find it in a few minutes to tell you where the scripture is. But as a matter of fact, wait a minute, here it is. It's in Jeremiah 6:16. Jeremiah 6:16, God says, "Go back to the old way." Well, what is the old way? Well, first of all, if you go back to the ancient Roman Empire when Christianity was first founded, the Christians were called, and this is in history books, encyclopedias will tell you this, that Christians were called followers of the way. And then go look in the encyclopedia and look up the way, and you will find that the word the way comes from a word for the zodiac. And so the zodiac was referred to in the ancient Grecian, Roman systems of religion. The zodiac was called the way, and because it's the way the sun roams around through the 12 signs of the zodiac. And so the ancient peoples before Rome and during the Roman Empire called the zodiac the way. Well, that's interesting because Christians were referred to as followers of the way. And then today, we're reading in the scriptures in Jeremiah 6:16, where God says, "Go back to the old way." And so, what the Bible is saying is, if you really want to connect yourself with the God force, with the divine presence in the universe that men have called God, then go back to the old ancient, what I refer to and what the Santos Bonacci calls the sacred science. In the Bible, is called the old way. In other words, all of their religions today, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and the hundreds of cults and groups and sects and Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons, all of these are man-made. All these are man-made institutions, some kind of a business to make money and control people. But there is only one original spiritual understanding that goes all the way back to thousands and thousands of years, and it was called the Way. And the Christians are, incidentally, were followers of the Way. And they were, and another interesting thing about the early Christianity and the Roman Empire Christians, before Caesar became a Christian, Christians were called atheists. Look that
No
up in an
kidding.
encyclopedia. Yeah. Christians were referred to in Rome as the atheist. Why? Because they refused to worship the gods of Rome. And obviously, anybody who's got more than 500 brain cells knows if you're not worshiping Caesar's gods, that you are an atheist. You don't believe in God. And the Christian said, "No, we don't believe in your God, airhead. Not the God. We don't. We're not buying into your God." And
Right.
and so the Romans said, "Well, then you're an atheist. You don't accept the gods." And
You
so,
know,
but then of course,
this sounds like what the guy on the mountain said to me. He asked me if I believe in God. I said yes, but I believe in God as a universal consciousness, an
yeah,
energy that pervades all life and all things. And he just didn't get it. He said
no,
that's not what it means.
It
But
was
that is
in one ear
actually,
and out the
but
other.
but from what you're saying, that is, that what you're saying confirms my
yeah. Well,
belief.
see,
And
when you say he doesn't get it, no, he's not getting it because he doesn't want it. He's already got
right,
his own
Yeah,
belief. You can't
right,
handle the truth.
that's
right,
right.
But
exactly.
And that makes sense what you were saying because, well, I both of us are actually big fans of Jim Mars, and
yeah,
probably his first book that I got, Rule by Secrecy, released I think in the late '90s. He describes at some part of the book how all of these religions all just kind of borrow from one another, and a lot of the saints and saviors thing. It virtually everything is exactly the same, just slightly augmented, just in
well,
tiny,
true.
barely noticeable ways. But there, a lot of these religions are exactly the same.
Well, it sounds like the religions are a control structure, whereas the way is just the natural law of the universe. And when you live in the way, you're connected to source, you're connected to the earth, to the galactic core.
That's
And
right.
Absolutely. And the biggest difference here is that the way cannot be co-opted or subverted
That's
or
right.
perverted
Right.
in any way, shape, or form whatsoever.
Nope.
No matter how
Nope.
much effort or time or energy or focus is put into it,
That's right.
it will always remain unbesmirched.
That's right. You can do whatever you want with the human institutions or with humans, but you cannot touch the heavens. That's always been there. And it's the way. And once you understand the way, now you've found your way. And so yeah, that's an incredible story about how where religions have actually come from. And and I mean, I could go off in all kinds of directions with this subject, but when I tell people, not modern day astrology. Modern day astrology is basically based on the old Phoenician, Akkadian, Phoenician, Canaanite, Babylonian system. But that was very, very impressive system. They were very, very knowledgeable about the heavens, and they charted the heavens. And we get what we call astrology from there. But astrology actually started out as a religion and became today what we call astrology. So the ancient peoples knew about the way. And but then when I talk to Christians about astrology, and that is the way, going, because you ask a 7-year-old child, where is God? And they will point straight up into the sky. So God's out there. Yes. Well, that's obviously God's out there because he's not here. He's not from Cleveland. So he must be out there. And if he's out there, then you're talking about the heavens. Well, God is in heaven. That's right. And, once you understand the word God is simply dog spelled backwards, it's very difficult trying to explain to people how simple this stuff really is. God is out there in heaven because that's where the stars, the constellations, that's where the moon, the sun, and all the planets that affect us.
but our
And
planet
all
is
the,
also in heaven. Our planet is also in heaven, so God must be here too.
well, I know, but that's again, God's all things to all people, and it's all
That's
part
right.
of the whole. But But when I hear people saying, Christians will tell you, no, astrology is of the devil, have nothing to do with the devil, have nothing to do with astrology. Let me explain why the Christian church says that. There's so much that the Christian church have not told the people, but I'll tell you. And it boils down to this, that the Old Testament was based on Moses, the Ten Commandments, the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, and the Old Testament, as opposed to something called the New Testament, which was Christian. And that alone, I mean, as a whole, there's not a turn you could take that doesn't open up another question. Why do you have two testaments? If it's the same God, why is it just one testament? No, you have two testaments. Why? Because the very word testament comes from testes. You have two testicles. And so that's why when Moses comes down from the mountain, it says he carried the stones of the testimony. You look it up, stones of the testimony were testes. Why? Because in the Hebrew religion, even today, I think it's still practiced, but in the ancient Hebrew religion, if you went into court as a Jew against another Jew, if you were male, you would hold your testicles when you were testifying, when you were making a testimonial or testifying. And so the seriousness of this is very simple. When you're speaking against another fellow Jew in the courtroom, you better know what you're talking about because you're going to lose something if you're lying. And so that's where we get the idea that that when you go into court, they have you by the testicles because you're testifying, and you're going to testify with your testimonial. So,
As a
but
Jewish person, I've never heard this, so it's very interesting to me.
And as someone
no,
with testicles, I've never heard it either. So
yeah,
It's
and
fascinating.
and when you go to the old reference works on like the what do they call them, where the old rabbis put all of their work, all the old rabbis is called the oh, I can't remember the term for it right now, but anyway, in the ancient and old days, there was a lot written about this, and it said that the stones of the testimony were small and round, and they could be carried in the palm of one hand. So when you see Charlton Heston coming down from the mountain with those two large plates of the testimony, no, no, no. Go back and read what the ancient rabbis and what the ancient reference work said. It was small, round, and could be held in one hand. and they were written on both sides. They were written around the circle, and that's interesting. Small and round, it could be held in one hand. So then but then getting back to the idea that astrology is of the devil. No, you have to understand that in the Old Testament, based on Moses and the Mosaic scriptures, Moses was the leader of a lunar cult. This is what so many people in Christianity have no idea about, and most Jews do not know. But the reference works, if you go back to the Encyclopedia Judaica and to all the old reference works and read about the history of the Semitic religions of the Middle East, not just Jewish, but all the Semitic religions of the Middle East were based on the moon. And so even the Jewish calendar today is called a lunar calendar. Why? Because Moses was the leader of a lunar cult. He was the leader of a moon worshiping cult. So obviously there were three. When you go back into the subject and really start studying it, you'll find out that there were three major cults in the ancient Middle East period, all over the Middle East. There were three major cults. One was the cult of the sun, which gave birth to what we call Christianity. Jesus is God's son, and he's the light of the world. Well, of course, the sun is the light of the world. What else lights the world if not the sun? And so when you get into Christianity, that's sun worship. Therefore, you go to church on Sunday. But
Yes.
but the Hebrews, but the Jewish religion has all of their holy days after sundown, after 6 o'clock. Why? Because that's how the ancient Hebrews counted their days, is from sundown to sundown. Why? Because that's when the moon comes out,
That makes sense.
after sundown.
Yeah.
And so you don't have your religion, your religious holidays and holy days during the day when the sun's out. That's Christian stuff.
Right.
So you wait till the sun goes down, and now you have a moon religion based on the moon. And so Moses, as I said, was now the leader of a lunar cult, and that's why today the Jews know this, as well as the Islamic peoples know, that Yahweh is actually the same God as Allah. Allah is Arabic, Yahweh is Hebrew. It's the same God. It's a moon god, and this is why, if when going back to the Old Testament, remember when Moses asked God, if I could see you? Moses says to God, "Can I see you? Would you show me? Show yourself to me?" And God says, "No, no man can look upon me and live." However, having said that, you have been you've been very faithful, and you're a good guy, and so I'm not going to let you see me. But I'll tell you what, you go over there behind the rock, and I'm going to pass by, and you can see my butt. I'll pull my pants down, you can see my butt. How's that? Is that good enough? And so Moses gets to see, and it says in the scriptures, go read it, that God showed Moses his butt.
Are
And
you kidding?
so, no, it's right. Go
Yeah.
read it. It's in the Pentateuch. And so and so
And there was no
now,
paparazzi
I
either.
never heard it put that way before in my time
well,
at Hebrew school.
well, Christians have never heard the rest of the story in their schools either. And of course, the Islam and the Muslims, they never heard nothing. They don't know from nothing. They haven't got the
No.
faintest idea they're even alive. I mean, the Muslims have no idea in the world what's going on. At least some of the Jews are well read, and some of the Christians, like the Jesuits, they know what the new name of the tune is.
I'm a very well-read Jew, actually. I research this stuff just constantly.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. There's a whole world of hidden. It's called occult, simply meaning hidden. There's an entire world of hidden knowledge that the big guys at the top, smoking their cigars at the Waldorf Astoria, they know that the regular Jewish people have no idea in the world about. So let me go on.
Yeah.
um,
Well, we
and so
uh
there,
we actually have to take a commercial break somewhat soon, but before we did that, and of course we can continue on this in hour two, I would like you to once again tell people of your real website and
yeah,
any stuff that you're doing now that they can obtain through that website.
sure. My website is Jordan Maxwell Show, SHOW. I had to change it, so that's my website, jordanmaxwellshow.com. When you go there, there will be a little button you will see. It says Jordan. It says Research Society, and if you click on the button Research Society, it will take you to a new website connected to Jordan Maxwell Show, which is a research website. The Jordan Maxwell Show basically is a podcast with a little bit of information from time to time, but it's just a podcast. But the Research Society is a new research website that I am downloading all of my material on. So if you want to get the latest stuff and all the old reference, go on jordanmaxwell.com to Research Society.
That's jordanmaxwellshow.com, not jordanmaxwell.com. We'll be repeating
Jordan
this
Maxwell Show.
Yeah, we'll be repeating this ad infinitum throughout the broadcast, but that's jordanmaxwellshow.com. And our website, again, is www.thekembo.com. And you can also find our blog and our Etsy store where we make Orgonite for anyone and everyone. Anyway, we'll be back in hour 2 with Jordan Maxwell. Thank you for listening to The Human Frequency on American Freedom Radio.
No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Welcome back to the Human Frequency on American Freedom Radio. We're here with the incomparable Jordan Maxwell today. And before we continue, I just want to let you know that Gabe and I will be in Los Angeles for a great event from April 7th through 10th. That's next week. We'll be there for the 5D event at LAX Holiday Inn. And there's going to be a lot of great speakers on spirituality, consciousness, science.
Including yourself.
Including me. And I'm going to be doing a talk about not just chemtrails, but specifically the energetic war on humanity and how to win it, because it's winnable. And I don't want you to be depressed and feel bummed out all the time about chemtrails and EMF. I want you to know that whatever is happening in this world, we can solve the problem. So I'll be doing a talk there on April 8th at 3 p.m. But Gabe and I will be there from the 7th through the 10th. We'll have a table with Orgonite. We have beautiful Orgonite pieces, and we'll even be offering little pocket stones for a very, very low $5 each, so everyone can have a nice piece of Orgonite.
That's right. So come by and say hi to us, and even if you don't feel like doing that, just come by and show us your butt like God did.
Yeah.
So let's get back into that, shall we, Jordan?
Well, the event information is at my website, thekembo.com. You'll see a flyer for the event, and you'll see it on my upcoming events. So just click on there, and you'll see where you can get information on tickets. And I believe it's if you just want to come and visit us at our table, you don't even need to get a ticket.
That's right. Sorry, I jumped the gun there a little bit. Jordan,
we're very excited about God's butt. That's why.
Yes, I'm ecstatic. In case you can't tell.
That's funny. Well, so when God shows his butt to Moses, and God is Yahweh, which is a moon god in Hebrew, but in Arabic it's it's Allah. Allah and Yahweh are the same thing. So Allah is a moon god and Yahweh is the moon god, and so the moon god is showing his butt. This is why today, if you go on the web and go to image, where you only see pictures, and type in God showing his butt at the Vatican. Vatican,
is this why
God
they call
showing
it mooning?
his butt.
This is why they call it mooning? Mooning.
That's right. That's what I was going to say.
I got
so
one.
Ding,
Moses
ding, ding.
was-
Okay.
I'm not
God
keeping track, so I
Score one for Sharon.
Yeah. God was mooning Moses. That's where it comes from.
Unbelievable.
I mean, do you understand? That's where it comes from. God was mooning Moses. And of course, when you get into Christianity and Judaism is really an interesting religion. I mean, it's got all kinds of. I think Judaism is probably the most eclectic religion there is. I used to think Christianity was, because it borrows from everything. But Judaism actually is very interesting. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know this or not, but the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, where all the Jews go to wail, they're wailing also on Wall Street. But in Jerusalem, where they're wailing at the wall, that wall, the Jews feel that is the Temple of Solomon. In actual fact, no, the Temple of Solomon is far, far away from where that temple wall is. That has nothing to do with King Solomon, period. It was built, that wall was built by the ancient Romans, and it was built as a fort for the Romans. It was called Fort Antonia. Go back and get the dictionary and encyclopedias and look up Fort Antonia, and it would say that today the Wailing Wall is actually an old Roman fort. that the Jews are wailing at. So this is why the more Jews pray, the worse things get.
Oh
Is because
no.
no,
So
I'm
they shouldn't be
serious.
putting the little notes to God in that wall.
Well,
You
that's
know,
a
it's funny
Roman
because
wall,
that's
and then of course
that
the
would be
Jews.
news to a lot of people. That'd be news to a
Yeah,
lot of
well, I mean,
Jewish people.
well, go look at an
And we are two of
encyclopedia.
them.
Yeah. Well,
Go
it's
get
very
an
interesting to know more
encyclopedia.
about the
Well,
Holy
I'm saying
Land.
go, yeah, Holy Land. There's nothing holy in the Holy Land. Nothing.
Mm.
There's nothing holy there. It's all Roman. It's all religion. It's all Vatican. The whole thing is
Why is
Roman.
it then why is it such disputed territory? Is that simply geographic, or is
No,
there
no, no, no,
something
no,
there
no. There's
beyond that?
something there. Yeah, there's something there, all
Yeah.
right, but it's not holy. If you
Oh,
know, no, that's a whole story in itself. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. When Steven Spielberg made his movie Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark is, of course, the Hebrew Ark, or the Ark of the Hebrews, or the Jewish Ark of the Covenant. And so when Indiana Jones is given the commission by the U.S. federal government, go out and find that lost Ark because Hitler is looking for it also, and we need it. Why? Why is Hitler looking for the lost ark? And point of fact, he was in real history. Hitler was adamant about finding the lost ark of the covenant. Why? It hasn't got anything to do with Nazis in Germany. What the hell would he want it? No, no, no. It does have something to do with Nazism. Yeah, you better go back and look at this stuff. And so and I'll go into that on another show too. But so Indiana Jones takes off to go find the lost ark of the Hebrews. Did you see the movie?
yes, I
Okay.
did.
Where did Indiana Jones go first to
Oh my
find the
gosh, now I
lost
have to
ark?
remember. I can't remember in any detail.
He
Well,
went
Do you
to,
remember?
huh?
I never saw it, but I would go to Mount Ararat in Turkey.
Yeah. Well, if you saw the movie, Steven Spielberg is a lot of things, but stupid is not one of them. He knows exactly what he's doing. He has to know. His name's on it. And so I've been to his office. I've been in his private library. I know something about Spielberg. He's extremely diligent on details. So anything that's in the movie, that's exactly the way it would have been. So where does Indiana Jones go to find the lost Ark of the Hebrews? He goes to Tibet. He goes up into the
Oh,
mountains of Tibet. What's that all about? Why is he going to Tibet to find a Hebrew Ark? And he's up there, and who does he find up there looking for the Ark if it's not the Nazis? And they're in Tibet. Well, actually, in fact, in history, the Nazis did go to Tibet, and they were looking for the lost Ark, and they were looking for the history of the Aryan race. So Indiana Jones goes to Tibet. He finds this little. He's got to find this little crystal that will show him where the lost Ark is. So he finally gets the crystal and gets out of Tibet, and now he goes to find the lost Ark. So where does he go now? What was the next place he went to find the lost Ark? To the Holy Land? To Jerusalem? No, he goes to Egypt. And be goddamn if he doesn't find the thing in Egypt. He finds it in Egypt, in a tomb in Egypt. The lost Ark of the Hebrews in Egypt. And so you've got to question, wait a minute, why is Indiana Jones finding the lost Ark of the Hebrews in Egypt? It's because the whole idea of an Ark of the Covenant has nothing to do, nothing to do with Hebrews at all, period. Nothing. It has nothing to do with being Jewish. It has nothing whatsoever to be with Hebrew. It has to do with Egypt. And if you go on my website and join my research society, I got all the pictures and documents showing you. This is why he found the lost ark in Egypt, because in Egypt the ancient Egyptians had an ark, a holy ark. It was a big box carried with two long rails, and people would carry it, but they couldn't touch the ark. And it was called the Ark of the Contract. Well, of course, in Hebrew, a contract is a covenant. This is why you have witches have covens. No, it comes from a witch's covenant, a covenant.
mm.
And so the Egyptians had the lost Ark of the Contract. So it was an Egyptian symbol, Egyptian ark. All the reference works. Go to Bible reference works, Old Testament Bible references, and look up ark, and it will tell you the lost ark of the Hebrews is not Hebrew at all. It's an Egyptian symbol,
I
and it
need to
was
see this
borrowed.
movie again. I
Oh
think I was
yeah,
too
go
young
back
when
and
I saw it. I didn't get any of that.
yeah, well,
But
go back and watch it again. And then
I think that,
in the movie, Indiana Jones is right on the track of the lost ark, But he has the enemies of the Nazis who are looking for it too, and they're not stupid. They know where it is in Egypt also. But in the movie, the Nazis are being led. The leader of the Nazis is not Nazi. It's a Frenchman, a French archaeologist. And they make a big to-do over the fact that the Nazis are listening to and following the boss. Hitler has said the boss in Egypt to find the lost ark is a French guy. Why? Because it has to do with the French Grand Orient Temple Masons. Wake up. This is a very big story. And the Jews in Hollywood know the story. Steven Spielberg, as I said, has a lot of things, but stupid isn't one of them. I've talked to major people in Hollywood, the directors and writers and authors, and I know what they're doing. I know what these words mean. And so when you see, they finally find the ark, and they find it in Egypt in one of the temples. It's because the whole story is an Egyptian story, and boy, when you find out what the Egyptian story really is connected to the ark and why it's not Hebrew at all, then you will begin to suspect, oh, I see what's going on in the Middle East today. Now it begins to make sense to me that we're not seeing it through Hollywood anymore. Now look at the Middle East problem in relation to the real history of the ark and the real history of the menorah, where it really came from. And once you begin finding out where the real story is and where it actually all really came from, it's going to absolutely astound you that you have been bought into something and never, ever realized where it actually came from. And then when you get into that, I mean, I could go into Islam, and I will. I'd love to spend 4 hours on Islam. But while we're on the Hebrews, there was no King Solomon. There was no, in fact, King Solomon who ever lived. There was no such man. There was no King David. There was no Abraham. I mean, I talked with one of the leading rabbis back in 1968, 69 in Los Angeles, but he was he was back east. He was a president of one of the big rabbinical associations in America at the time. He went on to go on to the Knesset in Israel. But he and I used to talk for hours on these subjects. And I asked him, I said, Rabbi, was there a King David and a King Solomon? And he said, and I said, and he explained to me, he said, Jordan, look at. In the ancient Hindus, you have a triune God, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. In Egypt, you have the triune deities of Brahma, first of all, in Hindu, it's Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. In Egypt, it's Osiris, Isis, Horus. In Christianity, it's Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Well, in Hebrew, you have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So I said to him, and was there an Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? He said, I don't know. Was it a Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva? Was there an Osiris, Isis, Horus? I said, no, those were symbolic. Well, that's what ours is. It's purely symbolic. It's a story. And he's the one that told me. This is why the Bible is called the greatest story ever told. It's a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story.
Wow.
Now, if you understand how to read the story, and then the rabbis will tell you, now you're getting into the dark side. Now you're getting into the real symbolism in the Old Testament and what it's really saying. And so from that point on, I understood that this is why you have three major religions. You have Hindu, you have Christianity, Judaism, and Muslims. All three of those religions. Here's one that I don't know if you can handle. All three major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, can be traced back, if you sit in a library and do the research, can be traced directly back to the Hindus. Everything.
Oh, yes, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
And so when you were talking about Abraham, there was no Abraham. He never existed.
Right.
But
It's a
there were
story.
Brahmins.
Yep.
There were Brahmins. And the
Abraham,
Brahmins,
Brahman.
a Brahmin. Because
Avraham.
if you remember in the Bible, it says that Abraham's name was not Abraham. It was Abram. And it was later changed to Abraham. So when you put an A in front of Abram, it becomes Abram, Abram. And so it goes back to the Brahmin religion. And the Brahmins in India said that all the other races in India were beneath them, that the Brahmins, were God's chosen race. They were the chosen people. Look it up in a dictionary. Encyclopedia, Brahmins were called God's chosen people. They were Brahmins. And everybody else was referred to as untouchables. We don't have anything to do with those people. They're animals. They're goy. And so that is in India.
Yeah.
Well, now we find out that Abraham was simply a Brahmin, the Brahmins, and in the Brahmin religion, there was a goddess who was very important in the Brahmin religion. There's a river named after her in India called Saraswati. So the goddess was Saraswati, and the god, the father, was the Brahmins. So you have a Brahmin and Sarah. No, Saraswati, the
That
goddess of
makes sense.
India. And so then you have Abraham and Abraham and Sarah. There is
Wow.
and I sit here and talk with for hours on end, like I used to, with rabbis and religious teachers, etc., and researchers, authors, Jesuit priests, and virtual. I used to go down to the Solomon Wiesenthal Center for Holocaust Studies down on Pico in Los Angeles. Go down there and sit for hours on end and shoot the breeze with the rabbis. And I would ask them all kinds of questions, and they would shrug their shoulders and say, "Yeah, you're right. Okay." So Moses was a moon worshiper. So what? Give me a break. I got to have a religion. I mean, the Catholics got a religion, right? And the Protestants
Well,
got a religion. What about me? I got a family to feed. I got to have a religion too. And
it's
so once
funny.
you,
It's funny that
yeah,
you mentioned the Jews in Hollywood because when Sharon and I lived in Hollywood, we used to call ourselves. We used to say that we're the Jews in Hollywood.
We're the problem.
We're part of the
Yeah.
problem.
yeah,
But
well,
anyway, Jordan, there's so much to talk about, but you mentioned contracts a while back, and I
yeah.
wanted to talk about maritime law versus common law with you, and talk about contracts
Yeah,
and contract law.
if you don't mind switching gears a little bit.
Oh, no, no, no. I do that all the time. No, that's fine. First of all, there you go back to the Roman Empire, 2,600 years ago or more. Uh, there were only two kinds of law in the world. Only two kinds of law on the earth. One is the law of the land, and we hear that term you hear that term all the time. It's do this and this and that. Well, that's the law of the land. Why do you call it the law of the land? Well, because there's another law that opposes it called the law of the sea, the law of water. And so the law of water is everywhere, but people live on land. So the people's law, the law what is referred to as common law, the people's law, is the law of the land. That's why you're told when you go to Rome, do as the Romans do. You can do things in Africa you can't do in Russia. Why? Because of the law of the land, the law of the culture of the people. But you can get a credit card in China and go to South Africa and get hotels and eat well if with a credit card. Why? Because it doesn't have anything to do with the culture. We're talking business, money. Money is referred to as maritime admiralty. Maritime admiralty is water. So therefore, money is considered by international banks as water. So we say that money goes through your hands like water. No, money is water. It's the cash flow, the liquid asset. And so
That's
then
right.
you get into all of these things like I mean, all the terms, and I can't remember all of them, but we have terms like money goes through your hands like water, or money is referred to as liquidity. You have liquid assets, you're awash in debt, and if you go into court, you're in hot water, and
Right.
somebody needs to bail you out because you're flooded with bailout money, or your bank account has dried up. You have an offshore account because you're drowning in debt, and the boss is running a tight ship, and you're making waves, so tell you not to rock the boat. And and then they'll ask you when you join up, are you on board, mate? What is this, mate?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, mate. Are you on board? On board what? On board the citizenship. So you're laundering dirty money as you're operating in the mainstream. You buy things through the shipping department. If you don't pay for it, the bank will levy your account. And don't worry about it because one day your ship will come in. And so then you find out the word ship is included in everything like citizenship, scholarship, sportsmanship, friendship, airship, hardship, companionship, membership, leadership. I mean, it's all kind. And of course, if you're going to buy a
Tough
car
ship.
at a if you're going to buy a car at a dealership, you want to buy a whole bunch of cars, you can get it at a fleet price. So and so the ocean and the waters, oceans have always been what we call enchanting. The waves back and forth is enchanting. So of course you get things on sale, like a sailboat, a dictatorship, leadership, etc. And even the word worship comes from two words. Worth is worth, worth, the value of something. Whatever the value is, that's how much it's worth. And so, whatever it is you put a high value on, that's your ship. That's the ship you're on. So it's called worship. You are putting a high value on something. So, but anyway, the water in the ancient world was mer, M-E-R. That's why you have a mermaid. Maritime law, admiralty law is mer, M-E-R. And we say
Merchants.
that the ocean,
Merchant.
yeah, they say that
Merchandise.
Yeah.
yeah, but
So
we
maritime
say
law
that
is international. It's international private law, and it's
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 on based
worldwide.
on water.
Yes.
But let me go on while I'm thinking of this. So the sea is myrrh, and the sea is enchanting. So so we have something called myrrh chants, and the myrrh chants, the chanting is a form of music because you're bringing in a bank note, and so the whole world of commerce is based on water and words and terms and symbols. Like I said, you go into a court, you're in the hot water, somebody's going to bail you out. And because your body is a biological battery, you are an electrical unit, a biological battery, and your brain's a computer. Well, since you are 79 to 80% water, so if you can't get bailed out when you're in hot water in the court, then they'll have to put you in a cell, like a battery. A battery is a cell. And so, the whole idea of courts, and commerce, and banking, and government, it's all based on hidden words, hidden symbols. But once you understand how it all works for the first time, it will blow your mind. You'll say, "Oh, wow, now I see how the world really works." And that's the
You
way
need
it
to
works all
understand it.
over the world. Say it
If
again?
you don't understand it, you're enslaved by it.
Of
And
course you are.
that's and actually I'd like you to tie this in with the birth certificates. Obviously, I've listened to your talks and I love how you deconstruct the language. And we know that, you come out of the birth canal because again, that's the water reference and the
Yeah, because your
birth
mother, you
of
came
it.
out of your mother's water. Your
Exactly.
mother's
So we
water
have our,
broke. Oh.
our legal names are placed on a birth certificate. And at birth,
Well,
we
let me
are
let me let me
signed
say
over
this.
to,
Yeah, but let me go back and say this first. That even in Christianity, based on water, Christianity, if you're going to be born again, well, first of all, you have to go out in the lake, in the water, and go underwater and come out, and then you're baptized. What is that all about? Well, it's because when you were born, you came out of your mother's water, and so Mother Earth, Mother Nature. So you want to go back into Mother Earth, Mother Nature, into your mother, and go underwater and come out, and now you are born again. So it all has to do with water, being born out of your mother's water. Now, let me show you something. Since all business, all commerce, all banking is based on water. As a matter of fact, the very word bank. Where do you find the word bank? You find it on both sides of a river. They're called river banks. What does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency because the water is money, so it's a current. It's an ebb and flow of a current. Money comes in, yeah, it goes right out the next day. Money comes in, it goes right back out. It's a currency.
Cash
And
flow.
so, yeah, and so when a ship pulls in, let me give you an example. When a ship pulls into a harbor with, say, $800 million worth of Toyotas or TVs or whatever from wherever it's coming, the ship pulls in and parks at the dock. And where it's sitting at the dock is referred to as its berth, berth, its berth. And so if you're going to catch a ship, you got to find out which berth she's in. And all ships, I don't care what kind, airship, rocket ship, sailing ship, it don't matter. If it's a ship, it's she. Always, by
Yep.
law, all ships are female. Why? Well, because captains will tell you, oh, no, she's a good ship. She's always been there. She's a good ship. She's this and she's that. What do you mean she? It's because ships are female. Why? Because ships deliver the product. So therefore, the male, he manufactures, while the woman is in labor producing the product. So he manufactures and she produces the product. So when the products come in, $800 million worth of Toyotas on the ship, she is in her berth. And each one of those cars, televisions, and whatever it is, has its own paperwork. So every single item is accounted for with paperwork. Well, the paperwork in maritime law is called a certificate of manifest. Why? Because it wasn't here yesterday, but today it's here, so it's manifested. And what manifested? Well, read it on the paper. It has 4 doors, it's green, got air conditioning, so it's a manifest. It's called a certificate of manifest. And therefore, when you're pulling something off that ship, she that's brought it in on water, and it has its own certificate sitting in its birth. Therefore, when your mother gave birth to you, you came down the birth canal. Her water broke, and therefore you have to have a birth certificate. And the birth
Right.
certificate is signed by the dock, because that's where the damn ship is sitting, is at the dock. And so you have to have the dock sign your birth certificate. And so once
So
you see how the banks work, how the government works, how all of this stuff works, it's words. And put an S in front of the word and it becomes sword. So if you don't understand how the words work, if you don't know what the words are, then you're going to get cut. You're going to get hurt bad. When you go to court, why do you go to court? Because it's a game. Like you play basketball on the court. You play tennis on the court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Come on. And
it's a
so,
racket. And the birth certificate is a racket because when our legal name is put on that birth certificate, a business entity is created, and this is being signed over as collateral on the national debt to the United States corporation. So essentially, the mother is delivering the product,
yep.
us. We are human collateral to the government, which is the United States corporation. We are nothing but material objects as collateral on the debt.
Well,
So,
in law, you refer to as human resource. So if you're looking for
right,
a job, you go to the human resource. Why? Because you, as a human, flesh and blood person, flesh and blood human, are nothing more than a human resource, like oil and gas and rubber and iron. And you are nothing more than a resource.
but
You
it's
are
important
referred
to
to in
know.
law as moving property. Why? Because you do move. You
Well, it's
move, but you're
important to know
property.
though that the living man or the living woman is not actually property and is not the name on the birth certificate. The name on the birth certificate is a business entity, but because Americans are unaware of maritime admiralty law, we think that that's us. So we respond to court
I know.
summons as
I know.
if it's well, I know you know.
Look, I
I don't know if
understand all
everybody
that. I
knows.
understand
I
all
know
of that, but
I know
but
you know. I'm just
this is
speaking.
why when you get stopped, this is why when you get stopped, the cop will ask you when you show him your driver's license, and most cops will say, "Is this you?" And you would think, "Well, hell,
And it's
yes, me.
not.
Look,
I
but
don't
he
say
asks
that.
you,
I
"Is
say
this?"
it. Yeah, if it happens to me, I don't say that's me. I say that is my registered business entity. Here's the paperwork. I registered that legal name with the state of Minnesota. Here's the assumed name certificate. I'm Sharon. I'm the name holder of the business entity on that license, Sharon Daphne Schloss.
I
And they
understand.
can't do
Well, I
anything because
understand
of
all that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So have
understand
you done
all.
it too?
Yeah. No, I said I understand all of that. I was talking about it back in 1980. I understand. But what I'm trying to do is explain to the audience the concept, because it's a very interesting concept if the audience can get it. Because most people don't get it. You get it, but the audience don't get it. So that's why I'm saying I'm just trying to explain it in such a way that the audience begins to perceive what I'm actually saying and how it works. And so, so when the cop asks you, "Is this you?" He's holding your driver's license. "Is this you?" He wants you to say yes, because once you say yes, that's me. Good. Now we have you. Now we've got you,
Yep.
because now
Consent.
yeah,
That's your
it's
consent.
yeah. So anyway, what I would say is this: is that the whole world is operating under an occult, and by occult, it doesn't mean evil. It just, the word itself means hidden. And there's nothing really evil about the word hidden. There's nothing evil about it. It's just hidden. And so the ancient Romans, I got it right here. There's a maxim of Roman law, and I've got a book on the maxims of law in the ancient Roman Empire. And number 29U, maxim in law, which is a brief statement of of the Roman concept of law. And number 29 says, quote, "Let him who wishes to be deceived be deceived." That is a part of Roman law. If you want to be deceived and believe something that's not true, be my guest. I don't care. Believe anything you want. But when we get you into court and you're facing 25 years in federal prison, you better know what the words mean now, son. You can believe whatever you want out on the street. But in here, you better find out what these words really mean and what this law is really all about. and this is for the first time. Now people get scared. Oh, now they're facing prison sentences. Oh, now they want to know. Oh, yeah, now you want to know. Well, where the hell were you 25 years ago when you were drinking beer, watching a football game, and didn't give a damn about none of it?
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
When you're in trouble, now you want to know what the real story is. Well, I'm telling you, don't even bother because it's too big a subject. It would take you 25 years to even grasp the concepts
Well,
on which
Jordan, is there
government
anything you
makes.
can advise people that they can do to protect themselves? Because, you know, we want people to be protected. So with this knowledge, how do you protect yourself?
I would suggest the first, and I get that all the time, and my answer is always the same. Educate yourself. Here is my advice, and listen closely. My advice is don't do anything, period. Educate yourself first, because if you do anything in law, especially with the federal government, state is bad enough. But if you do anything with federal government that you don't know what you're doing and you don't understand the concepts, and you don't understand your position in this government, then I would suggest you go back and spend about 10 years studying day in and day out international maritime admiralty law, commercial law, international commercial law, understand how your body is a security on the New York Stock Exchange, understand how your flesh and blood body is worth millions of dollars on the New York Stock Exchange that you've never heard anything about because it's not important. It hasn't got anything to do with Paris Hilton or football. But if you find out your body is worth millions of dollars on the New York Stock Exchange, and if you go on the back of your Social Security card, and you will see a set of numbers on those Social Security card, take that Social Security card, those numbers, and look at a dollar bill. Pull out a 10, 5, 1, it doesn't matter. Pull out a bill and look at and line up the numbers on the money on the bill to the numbers on your Social Security card, and you'll see it's the same symbols. It's the same idea. So what you're looking at on the back of your Social Security card is a number which is on bills throughout the world that represent your body. Your body is a security for the corporation, and therefore you are a security for the body social called United States. Therefore, when you get old and you retire, you get Social Security. Not no, you're not getting Social Security because they're taking care of you. No, you are the security for the body social corporation. Let me give you an example that I always I think it's very important for people to get. If you are and you may have heard this before, but there are others who haven't. If you're a painting contractor and I want my room painted, I call you and you come over and give me an estimate and say it's $100 to paint my room. When you are through with the job, you come to me and you give me a bill. And this is the way it's written down, so there's no misunderstanding. There's a bill, and of course and if you don't understand, then you can tell me. Look at son, if you don't understand this bill, then listen to me. You owe me money. So now you're telling me how much I owe you in your own voice. So therefore, you're giving me an invoice. So you're telling me how much you owe, how much I owe you in a bill, and the bill is $100. So I reach into my pocket and I pull out $100 bill and I give it to you. Now you're happy. I paid you. No, I didn't pay you nothing. I gave you $100 bill. You gave me a bill for 100. I'll give you a bill for 100. So when I give you that $100 bill, it's because you now owe me 100. It says on the face of the bill I gave you, this is a Federal Reserve bank note. So I just gave you a bill that you owe me $100, like a bank note. But since I owe you 100 and you owe me 100, then we're even. I didn't pay you anything. So that's why in America, you can talk to anybody who knows the law, and they will tell you, in America, you cannot pay a bill. It's impossible to pay a bill. You can discharge a debt, but you cannot pay a bill. You can discharge a debt like walking across the carpet. You build up electricity and you touch something metal, and it's discharged. That's why when you go through bankruptcy, it's going to discharge your debt. When you go into the military, you're nothing more than a human resource. And so when you get out of the military, they're going to discharge you. So before, they gave you charges. You know, when you go into court, you've been charged with doing this and you've been charged with doing that and the price of that. And so therefore, you are now getting charged. unless of course they're getting rid of you and you're getting discharged. So
Is there a book? Is there a book that you can recommend that will explain maritime admiralty law accurately? Because I would love to read a book all on maritime admiralty law.
And succinctly.
Yeah.
no, actually there isn't. It's the kind of thing
Oh.
you have to study for 30 years and write it down and photocopy it and cross-reference and cross-reference. But however, if you go on the web today and go to YouTube and type in the word on YouTube, very simple, type in the word US is a corporation. Very simple. US is a corporation. And you will find, if not hundreds of lectures by all kinds of brilliant people who have done extraordinarily brilliant work on words and terms and symbols and how it connects to the banks and how your body is a security for the body social and all of that. It's all on the web for free. Just go there and sit and listen for days and days on end, listening to all the hundreds of lectures by these great minds who have been researching this stuff all out. Very simple. Go on the web to YouTube and type in US is a corporation.
Well, I'm glad to know that that's accurate because when I go to YouTube, I don't always know if I'm getting it from the right source.
But
I have heard some very excellent information there on admiralty law.
There is a lot of excellent information there. But I learned a long time ago, listen to everything. Listen to your enemies. Listen to your most bitter enemies, because sometimes they'll tell you something nobody else knew about them. So rather than say, I don't want to have anything to do with this group or that group. No, I want to hear them. I want to hear everybody. And I'm doing research, and that's what a good researcher does. Go to, anytime I get a book that I think is important, I go back to the bibliographies in the back. I go to the bibliographies and see what books did this author inquire about, and what books did he read so he could write this book. So now I not only have his book, but I have all the books that he read in the bibliography. So, I mean, my God, you do that for 60 years and you have boxes of notes about books and words and terms and law and government. It's really quite a story. And I've asked people so many times, where can you show me, and nobody has ever been able to do it yet, can you show me the United States on a world map? And people will point to all kinds of things, and then they'll point to the 48, the 48 states, and and that's the on the world map. And I said, no, that's not the United States. United States. Let me find it here. I got the document right here in front of me somewhere. I got tons of documents in front of me. I wanted to tell you what is United States on a map. It's actually, I'm amazed. I can't find this documents right now.
It's like the U.S. Virgin Islands, I think, and
DC.
Yeah,
right? Right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
that's
DC.
It's just the U.S. Virgin Islands. Yes.
The Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Incidentally, did you know that the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue, where their home office is for the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue, it's in Puerto Rico.
That's right.
Now, why?
I always wondered why the United States had an interest in Puerto Rico when I was younger. I didn't understand if it was a state or not, and I started to learn this connection later.
Yeah, well, I'm going to teach you the connections right now. Let's see. Wait a minute. Here's the connections. Puerto Rico. We're talking about the Pirates of the Caribbean, and Disneyland. They have the Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, the Pirates of the Caribbean were Knights Templars. I mean, it's a wonderful kids' journey to go through Pirates of the Caribbean. But in point of fact, ABC Disney made a series of movies with Johnny Depp called The Pirates of the Caribbean. Why did they do that? Why were they making Pirates of the Caribbean? It's because the Knights Templars, who are the international banking today, the international banking elite around the world, you call them banking officials, but what they really are Knights Templars. They're going all the way back to the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th century AD under the Roman Empire, under Caesar in Rome, which was the Pope. And so when you see it's the Knights Templars, well, what was the symbol on the flag of the Knights Templars? It was a black flag with the skull and crossbone, called the Union Jack. I mean, it was called the Jolly Roger. And so the symbol in the middle in the Caribbean, the reason why it was Puerto Rico was had the black flag, is because the pirates agreed upon A long time ago, the pirates all agreed upon having one island in which everything they stole from anywhere on the earth, they could bring it back to this one island and it would be protected by a committee, like the mafia has a committee. And so with the heads of all the pirate groups, they had their central bank in Puerto Rico. And therefore, anything you steal, if you want to put it in a safe deposit, then bring it back to Puerto Rico and put it in the box with your name. And anybody touching anybody else's box will be killed immediately. So there was an honor among thieves in that way, that nobody touches anybody else's gold and diamonds or whatever it is they're selling, whatever it is they're stealing. So today, that's why we still have the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue and home based in in Puerto Rico, because that's where the Pirates of the Caribbean operated from. It's really all very interesting stuff. If you take 50 years and sit and read about it while everybody else is out on skateboards and going to the football game, you sit in a library and read and study 24/7, and you will find out that if you spend a lifetime reading and studying, you're going to end up where I did, broke with nothing while people take advantage of you. Why? Because I was not looking to make money. I was reading and studying. And so,
well, you have a wealth that they will never have.
That's true. That's very
well,
true.
And you have to know it's important anyway, and you do know. And I think that what you've done with your life is remarkable. And I have personally really no interest in sports games and television. Life is about research and learning and spiritual attainments, not material attainments.
it's good that you're not concerned about materialism, because if you truly are spiritual and you're truly working to uncover the spiritual realities and the dynamics under which mankind and the world exists, then you're not going to make any money, because that's not.
I don't even want to make money. I don't even want to get the attention of the IRS. And as it is right now, they're not paying any attention to me.
Well, I know, but it's the same thing. I don't make anything. I'm just what few dollars I get in from the people signing up for my research society, which is only $30 for a lifetime, not for the
Wow.
year. I have a lifetime subscription for $30, and on that I'm pouring all of my research on it. I figure, and the only reason I'm charging that is so I can pay my webmaster and keep the the website on the air, because it costs money every month to have a website and webmasters doing all the work for you. I don't have anything. I'm 75 years old. I've been on, I live on Social Security, a few $100 a month. I don't have anything. I don't own anything. And what I did have my website and materials, but all of that was stolen from me. So now I got nothing, period. So, but at 75, I've become very philosophical about my life situation. I figure I'm not going to be here much longer anyway. I did the best I could. I wanted to help people, and this is what I got for it, was people coming in, seeing I'm an old man and taking advantage of me and stealing everything I own. And that's in California, that's a big crime in California, financial elder abuse. But happily, these people don't care about courts, law, and nothing. They just steal everything. So I just do what I do the best I can, because I'm sick, I'm old, I got a bad heart, and I may not be here much longer anyway. So my big thing in life right now is to get information and knowledge out to people who have no idea in the world about what's going on in their religion, their government, the world they live in. They have no idea how the U.S. government works. It's really an incredible situation for people to find themselves in. I hear all this talk about same-sex marriages, and that's illegal, that's not right. No, same-sex marriages, if you understand marriage, I don't care who marries who, male or female. Marriage is a maritime admiralty business. You are
Yes.
a business. You are a
It's a
business.
contract.
You are a corporation. It's a company.
That's right.
And that's why, look at, when I see you out with somebody, I say to you, that guy you were with last night, I saw you with this guy. He's bad company. And you say, mind your own business. Then I find out you're going to get married and he's going to be your partner. What do you talk about? Company, business, partner? You're talking business. Well, if you're talking business, then you better have a license. So that's why you have to get a marriage license, because it's a business. And if you don't think so, if the marriage doesn't work out, you're not going to God, you're going to court. You better bring your house and your money and the car and everything, because it's just a business, period.
Well,
It's
Jordan,
supply and demand,
you've done a fantastic job at talking about all of these things and exposing a lot of things that most would not even occur to most people. Now, we only have a few minutes left here. I wanted to give you one more chance to plug your website and to unplug your non-website
Yeah,
and
right.
to talk about any current stuff that you're doing right now.
Well, thank you. Yeah, my original website was jordanmaxwell.com. Don't go there. It's been stolen from me. And don't buy anything from them. Don't have anything to do with that website because these are thieves, and I hope to see them in jail. I hope that they will ultimately have to pay for what they've done to me, stealing my website, my money, and everything I own. But if you want to contact me, go to jordanmaxwellshow.com. And on that show is my podcast, which I've got a lot of podcasts and a lot of shows you can listen to. Haven't done a whole lot with it lately because I've been tied up in court fighting these criminals who've stolen everything from me. So go to Jordan Maxwell's show. It's a podcast and listen to all the shows. I've got plenty of them on there and do some reading. But then also you will see a button that says Research Society. All that is just a new website I have, which is going to be all of my research materials, words and terms and pictures and symbols and audio, video, all kinds of stuff about religion, government, law, and everything else. It's all going to be on that website, Jordan Maxwell's the Research Society. So and then hopefully one day I'll get what was stolen from me, get it back, and then I will have my website back. But for now, Jordan Maxwell Show. And write, there's an email thing there to contact us. Anything you write to the Jordan Maxwell Show, I get, and I'll try and answer it if I can. And want to thank you again for letting me tell the people about this because I feel a very
Oh,
big,
absolutely.
I feel a very big
Absolutely.
responsibility to tell people the
Jordan,
truth.
we are honored that you would take the time to be on this show today. I know that you're busy and I know you're having health issues. So thank you immensely for taking the time. And I know that you are going to have justice because you are living in the way. And the thieves that stole from you are going to get what they deserve. You can rest assured.
I hope so.
And certainly in court, you have our blessings to
Thank you.
get
Thank
through
you.
get through that whole rigmarole.
Yes.
And all I can say is don't hold your testicles.
Right. Incredible
Yes.
story. We got to do another show just on the hidden stuff of religion. All
I
the
would love to do that. I would love to have you back to talk all about the occult.
Yes.
That's right. We
hidden.
we warmed people up with talk of testicles and butts, and now we can move on to
We can
onto
move
the
on
real
to other
meat.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Jordan.
Yeah,
We so
thank you.
appreciate it. Please visit jordanmaxwellshow.com and you can check out our website, thekembo.com. Help support our work with geo restoration in California and beyond and learn all about the life-giving energy of orgone. Thanks again, Jordan. You have been
Thank you.
listening to The Human Frequency on American Freedom Radio. See you next time.
Hello and welcome to the Human Frequency on American Freedom Radio, broadcasting live from Greenland. April Fools. A little early, I guess. No, we're still in Southern California, and we're still defeating the parasites on all fronts, especially weather fronts. Some nice skies these past few days, right, Sharon?
Did you say Greenland because it's been so cold?
That's one of the reasons.
I mean, I
yeah.
heard even in LA that people are having to turn on the heat. So when the mainstream media says this is such a hot year, hottest year on record again, promoting their global warming agenda and their drought agenda, I guess it's not true. It's been pretty cold.
Yeah, and I don't think Dane Wigington would appreciate it very much either.
Well, Dane Wigington threatened to have the police take me away for showing up at his event with orgone energy information, which is kind of strange considering he wants to stop chemtrails, supposedly.
Yeah, a
And
little strange.
we come in with the solution, and that creates too much drama. I don't know why, but I have my theories. But yes, the weather's been pretty remarkable. We've had unbelievable skies, and I think that the gloom and doom crowd's getting really bored with my blog because it's one day after another of chemtrail free, or you could see like this one little attempt at a chemtrail and it disappears. Because when you discover the free energy solution to chemtrails, you live a chemtrail free life. So maybe people think that's not possible. I would say take a look at my blog for the past 2 years and look at the archives and see the amazing defeat of chemtrails in Southern California.
And we have some updates on the legal name front as well. Isn't that right, Sharon?
Yeah, in the latest legal name adventures. So as many of you know, my name is no longer Sharon Daphna Schloss, that's my registered business entity. You can just call me Sharon. You can call me Sharon Daphna. So Sharon Daphna Schloss has been successful in obtaining a passport and signing on behalf of the business entity. The State Department didn't like it, didn't want to process the application.
Too bad.
And then they had to anyway when I presented my paperwork. And then I opened a business bank account, and that is under the name of Sharon Daphna Schloss, no more personal account. And my latest adventure was with PayPal. I wanted to start a PayPal so that we could get donations for our major organite gifting projects. It costs thousands of dollars a year for us to donate organite to the state. We pay for it out of pocket. And somebody had this nice idea. Oh, well, why don't you put a donate button on your site? So, I set up a PayPal, put a donate button. They shut down my account the next day and wouldn't tell me why. And after numerous emails and phone calls with them, I got my account restored. And I am very sure that it's because I set up a business PayPal with Sharon Daphna Schloss as the name of the business. And they didn't understand why what they thought was the name of a human was a business name.
Yeah, that was probably a big red flag to them. And you went through an epic battle to try and just to get a reason for it.
They would never give me one.
And they still never gave it to you, did they?
No, but after many conversations, I think I got the gist of it. Anyway, they restored my account because what can you do?
That's right.
It's a registered business entity.
It's legal and lawful.
It is. Well, speaking of the legal name, we have such an amazing guest today. Gabe and I are huge fans of Jordan Maxwell. And Jordan is a preeminent researcher and independent scholar in the field of religious and occult philosophy as far back as 1959. He works on exploring the hidden foundations of Western religions and secret societies and possesses amazing knowledge on the manipulation of our language to enslave us. He has conducted dozens of intensive seminars, hosted his own radio show right here on American Freedom Radio, and has been a guest on more than 600 radio shows, and written, produced, and appeared in numerous television shows and documentaries. Jordan has a tremendous wealth of knowledge to share. We're very excited to welcome you, Jordan, to the Human Frequency. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you and welcome, Jordan.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with people who are knowledgeable about what's going on, so I don't have to start from day one and bring people up to speed. I think a lot of people are finally awakening to the fact that the world is not what they thought it was, and it's not. And there is a lot of, I think the biggest problem that the human race has is ignorance. It's education. That's the biggest problem. God knows we have enormous amounts of problems all over the world. Any one of them are frightening. But the biggest one of all is education, because as long as the human mind rejects material, rejects knowledge, doesn't want to hear it, like the movie, you can't take the truth, you can't handle the truth.
Right.
So that's what I've been seeing all my life, is people look at me with glassy eyes and wondering what I'm talking about. And so now it's at least people are starting to awaken. But what I always say is, well, that's what people do when you're in prison. Every morning you wake up. So the mere fact that people are awakening, that really doesn't impress me, because you're still in a prison. So unless and until you learn how this world actually works, just waking up to the criminality is not good enough. You need to understand how it really works, so that you can live from day to day, understanding where you're going, where you've come from. So that's what I've been trying to do for some 55, 56 years now. It's going on, just talking to people about doing something you've never done before. Go read a book. Just go to the library and start reading about how your government works, and your banks and your institutions, human institutions, where they come from, who's financing them, how the world actually operates. So it's quite a story, and I don't even know where to start. I've done so many radio shows, but I don't know where to start. It's such a big story.
Well, I actually do know where to start, and I think we're going in a very good direction here, but I need to say something first, and you, of course, can talk about it more, Jordan. But people need to know that your former website, jordanmaxwell.com, is not your actual website, and that website has been subverted and taken over by interests that have absolutely nothing to do with you, and that you have a completely different website that people should go to. Would you tell the people what that website is?
Yes, it's called Jordan Maxwell Show, SHOW. Very simple. I had a website called jordanmaxwell.com, but I needed someone to handle it for me at 75 years old. I don't know that much about the technology and how to run a website, so I needed someone to help me with my website. And this young guy comes in and says, "Oh, I just love what you're doing, and I want to help you." And anything I can do to help you? And I said, well, yeah. Do you know anything about websites? Oh, yeah, I can take care of that for you. So I made a deal with him, and that he would be my webmaster and help me with the distribution of products. And for that, I would pay him. So, but in order to have a webmaster, I have to give him the the username and the password for him to go into my website and and work with it for me. Well, I
Right.
discovered that when I did that, he immediately, now that he has the codes to my website, he went in, and I didn't know anything about it, but he went into the back end of the website because he's got the codes now and changed the ownership of the website to himself. And then he redirected the bank account,
Oh,
which used to go to me. He redirected the bank account to himself.
it's terrible.
Yeah, and then he sent to Washington, D.C., and got all of my books and videos that I produced, got them all copyrighted in his name.
How is
Then
that
tried
even
to,
possible?
very simple.
That-
If you really don't care about the law, and if you're a total criminal lawbreaker, you just do whatever you want to do, and it
yeah.
works. Because in
It
this
sounds like the
society,
IRS.
yeah, it just works. And so he
Right.
copyrighted all my material, so he owns all that I have ever produced. He owns it, and tried to trademark my name, so he owns my name. He owns my bank account. He owns my website. He owns everything. And so it's just criminality. But I'm an old man. What can I do? I mean, I trusted him. Well,
Well,
now
it's
you see.
terrible when things like this happen, and there are many people out there that want to stop people like you from doing your work. And I wouldn't put it past our government to hire
I wouldn't
people to
either.
do this.
I
Gabe and I
know.
had someone approach us and say, "Hey, I want to help you. I'm interested in your work." Turned out he really didn't know anything about what we did. He put a friend of his on the phone with Gabe to tell him, because he understood the orgone energy. And then what really this guy wanted to do was help us in a similar capacity to what this guy was doing with you. I caught it real quick. I said, "Hey, wait a minute. I think this guy is trying to get in here to stop us from doing our work effectively and to get control of what we do." And we said, "Hey, let's just not talk to
Yeah,
him again."
I think it
It's
was the fact that he was about 220 pounds and spray tanned and looked like he
Yeah.
was basically lifted from the set of